You're listening to Midlife Side Quest, the Over the Hill Gaming Podcast. Here's your host, John Wall.
Welcome to Midlife Side Quest Game of the Year Edition, an entire week of episodes discussing the best games of 2022. All week we've been counting down my top 5 games of the year, as well as giving out some other honors and accolades for the video games that have kept us all so very entertained. If you haven't yet subscribed to the show, please take a moment to do so. And I would also love to hear your feedback, which you can do by leaving a review wherever you're listening to today's episode. Also, if you'd like to chat, you can find me on Twitter or at Hive at MidlifeSQ. As we put a bow on 2022, we are also looking ahead to next year. And I thought it would be fun to hand out some titles to the games coming this year. You know, like the kind that you would find in your high school yearbook, like the most likely to succeed, or most likely to appear on an episode of Cops. You know the ones. So let's get started with the most likely to be delayed into 2024. Since Skull and Bones jumped the gun and has already seen a delay, I'm going to go with Spider-Man 2. They've already set a fall release window for the highly anticipated game, but I think most Sony first-party titles this gen have received at least one delay, and I'm a little worried that Spidey might get a small bump of his own into early 24. Next is most likely to be a surprise hit, and for this I'm choosing The Plucky Squire. This amazing-looking indie game of a storybook come to life has an incredible art style and an inventive-looking gameplay. If it's half as fun as it looks, it should be a big hit. Seriously, go watch the trailer. Next, most likely announcement goes to the successor to the Nintendo Switch. I think it's finally the year that we get a reveal of this long-anticipated hardware. I don't think it'll be the so-called Switch Pro, but probably a full-fledged follow-up that keeps the same general design ideas of the Switch, but hopefully has 4K support and much more sturdy Joy-Cons. Lastly is the most likely to be game of the year. So I think Starfield has a chance. It has the potential to live up to the pedigree of Skyrim and Fallout, but it has to prove that the delay has given it enough time to add that extra polish that some Bethesda games just haven't gotten. So my money is going on The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. There are legitimate worries about it running on the old hardware, but it's still the sequel to the best video game of all time, and I would never bet against Nintendo. I've got 2 more special recognitions to give away to games that I really enjoyed this year, but they just didn't make my top 5. And the first one is going to the most original gameplay mechanic. This is for something cool and unique that I hadn't seen before in a game, and the winner of this category is Tunic for its instruction manual. For you kids out there, instruction manuals used to be these little books that came with video games back when we used to buy physical discs and cartridges. They haven't made them in a while, but there's one in Tunic, and it's amazing. When you start the game, it tells you pretty much nothing as far as what to do or where to go. And by finding the pages of this manual scattered across the world, you begin to piece together the secrets of the game. You might find a page that shows you how to do a certain maneuver or use a skill, one that you could have probably done the entire time, but you didn't know how to execute it until you found that page. It is a brilliant mechanic that is the highlight of the game and is such a great idea that I don't know how someone didn't think of it before. Also, the manual is filled with amazing art and details to emulate the instructions of old, which is just a great touch. The next award goes to the best boss battle. And this moment was so epic and intense that it really took this game up a notch in my mind. And that is the fight against Garm in God of War Ragnarok. For those who aren't current on their Norse mythology, Garm is a colossal hellhound who guards the gates of hell. It's hard to talk too much about this fight without spoiling anything, but just know that it is an epic battle that really harkens back to the amazing boss fights of the original God of War games. It's a fight against a seemingly unbeatable foe, and just when you think you know how it's going to end, it doesn't. Great game, great boss fight. Well, that brings us to my number one game of 2022. And let's recap for a second the list so far. Disney's Dreamlight Valley came in at number 5. Marvel Snap was number 4. A Plague Tale Requiem hit at number 3. Tinykin blew me away and landed at number 2. And my number one game of 2022 is Pentiment. This wonderful narrative adventure game from Obsidian went from being a title that I wasn't even sure would appeal to me to being a game that I just couldn't put down until I saw how it all ended. The story of Andreas Mahler, a 16th century artist's apprentice who gets tangled up in a murder mystery in the small town of Tassing, is the video game equivalent of a page turner. A book that you just can't put down and stay up all night to see what happens next. As you dig deeper into the case, you uncover clues that there may be much more to this murder than meets the eye, and you begin to unravel layer after layer of the story until you reach the stunning conclusion. The story goes so far beyond what I was expecting that I never knew what was going to happen next. And just when I thought I had a feeling for who was behind things, the rug would be pulled out from under me. Spanning many years, I was enthralled with the townsfolk, getting to know them, sitting down to dinner with them, and watching as their stories evolved over years. There is such an incredible attention to detail being paid to creating this small Bavarian town. It's clear that the developers were passionate about this story and these people. The art design is another thing that elevates Pentiment above other games this year. The presentation is like a painting from the early 1500s come to life, which really does a great job of drawing you into this time period. It's not flashy or pushing the limits of what, modern hardware can do, but it's beautiful in a way that shows what great artists can do and proves that pure hardware power doesn't make games great. The entirety of the story is told through text with no voice acting at all, but that fits with the story that they're telling, and different characters that you meet will have different fonts for their dialogue depending on things like their background or their level of education. It's a nice touch that, again, just adds to the authenticity of the whole experience. Throughout the course of the 20 or so hours that I spent with the game, I explored the village of Tassing, learned about the heritage and the traditions of the people, and just became engrossed in their lives. The mystery that unfolds behind the murder is really well done, and it concludes in a satisfying way. But the game became much more about those people that you meet and the choices that you make during your time with them. Choices which can alter their relationship with you and even determine maybe if they live or die. It is a brilliantly told story with themes about time and consequence that really hit me. I still think about this game weeks and months after I finished it, which I think is really the mark of a great game. It can be a bit of a slow burn, and the heavy amount of reading I know can be a turnoff for some people, but if that hasn't scared you away, I give this game my highest possible recommendation. It is outstanding, and it is the best game of 2022. Thank you so much for listening to Midlife Side Quest Game of the Year week. I hope you've had fun and enjoyed this special week of episodes. I feel like the show is starting to hit its stride a few months in, and I'm really excited for what 2023 has in store for it. In the near future, we'll go back to our weekly schedule next Thursday with my impressions of the premiere of The Last of Us series, which is debuting this Sunday on HBO. And the week after that, I'll be covering the Microsoft Developer Direct Showcase. My first new game of the year, I think, will probably be Dead Space, so I'm excited to go hands-on with that and share my thoughts with you soon. It should be a really fun year, and I'm grateful that you're here for the ride. And remember, if you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review, and you can always follow the show on Twitter or Hive, where we go by MidlifeSQ. Until then, be well and keep playing.